Okay, cool. Yeah, this first one is small, but we will have a recording, so welcome anyone that's listening to this via our recording. Wanted to start by giving a quick intro. I'm Grant, co-founder and CEO of Matcherino. I'm not going to go too much into Matcherino. There's a lot to cover, but basically we are esports infrastructure in a lot of different ways. And we have some exciting new ad tech that we just launched, but we have talked to a lot of different advertisers over the years, and it consistently comes up that people are interested in the space, but they're really not, don't understand it, aren't sure about it. So we thought one of the best ways would be to start a monthly call and help get them educated by having interviews with organizers, interviews with other advertisers that are already in this space so they can talk about their do's and don'ts, and hopefully some other cool kind of interviews and maybe like news updates. But our goal with this is to make it educational. So that's what we're going to try to do. We are going to, like I said, talk a little bit about new ad tech that we just launched, but then we're fortunate to have two organizers with us, prominent organizers, one from the Supercell community and another from what's called the FGC, which is the fighting game community, and that's kind of your Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat type genre, both of which are huge categories, and we have people here that can help us understand it. So we'll be asking them some questions, but also feel free to ask questions. We are fortunate to have them. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Michael Pinkham, who's our CMO, to give us a quick overview of what we just launched and what we're really excited to promote, but we're not going to take too much time talking about it.
Cool. So I'm going to share my screen. Let me know when you can see it. I'm first going to go through a deck very, very briefly, and then I'll show you what it actually looks like on stream. So the sponsor overlay, you can see it, right? The sponsor overlay allows brands to place promotional assets across hundreds or thousands of tournament organizers all at once and tournament events. These are the Matcherino partners, so they're organizers that Matcherino have already vetted. And partners are allowed to select the brands that are either applicable to their audience or select through the sponsors that Matcherino offers. On top of there being promotional assets featured on the stream, there are also click-through links and conversion tools so that the audience can not only see the promotional assets, but also engage with the brand. And then on the back end of everything, Matcherino captures how many viewers there are, how many people clicked on those links. But really the added benefit here is that this form of advertising doesn't actually interrupt the content of the tournament. So currently there's an issue with Twitch in that when an ad reel is played, it will sometimes actually override the content of Twitch. And the benefit of having an overlay, the sponsor overlay, is that it's seamless, it's worked into the content, and a tournament organizer can continue to run their event. So this is actually what it looks like. We've just recently launched. We have a few of our tournament organizers using it. And here's an example. Oh, what's the...
You should be able to jump to any timestamp.
Yeah, what is the timestamp again?
Just any timestamp.
Okay.
Could work out.
So as you can see here on the bottom right, one of our partners is Lucid Sound. I'm going to cut the sound. And as people are watching this StarCraft 2 tournament, they can actually see that Lucid Sound is supporting this tournament, and viewers can even see the contribution go up in real time. So tournament organizers will actually benefit and drive revenue depending on how many viewers there are. So that's it in a nutshell.
Cool. Yeah, like Michael said, we just launched this. Our audience currently we have about 1,600 verified organizers on the platform. That is equal to about 300 tournaments we have through these special kind of partnered organizers. These are kind of organizers that are bigger than your average organizer. They're also more professional, so they've had to jump through a number of hoops to be in our partnership program. I think actually our acceptance rate is about like 20%. And they have, like I said, about 300 tournaments a month, and that's equal to about 25 million viewable minutes. And we are currently charging $5 CPMs, and that will get you each of those impressions, each of those thousands of impressions is actually 10 viewable minutes per impression. So that would be 10,000 viewable minutes for $5, or about almost a week of someone watching. And yeah, to Michael's point, we can scale this, and you're directly into the tournament stream. So it's pretty awesome to be able to scale to this level. I think without a doubt we are, besides Twitch, the easiest way to reach all these communities. But like Michael said, you're actually interacting with the community as opposed to like interrupting their content. A huge difference. And anyway, we can Michael and I can talk about this for a long time, so we won't. We want to get into this Q&A session. So Michael's going to moderate. If anyone has any questions, I have a ton, but if anyone has any questions, feel free to just raise your hand and ask away. We have, who I call him by Gooose, Woodrow, and then we have Art, who also goes by Sabin. So maybe if you guys wouldn't mind giving yourselves just a quick introduction, and then we'll start asking you some questions. And thank you again for coming here.
Hello there. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep. Perfectly.
Awesome. All right, well, my name is Woody. Everybody calls me Woody, but online I go by Goose. So everybody here calls me Goose. But I am the CEO of Vanguard Gaming. And what we are is we're a mobile esports organization, which a lot of people think is weird, but we're definitely dedicated to the mobile community, and we do a lot of partnerships with Supercell and with Matcherino. And yeah, we're about a year old in North America. So
Art, you want to do both at the same time, or?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Let me hear you.
Okay. Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Arturo. I'm also known as a Sabin or NycFurby. Like I'm an old school FGC member, fighting game community member. Sorry, that has been in the community literally for like 25 years. Like I've pretty much seen it all, and I've been using Matcherino for about 6 years or so. I'm pretty much at least like top 3 or if not top 5 on the site. You know, I've done like about 1,200 events through Matcherino. Crowdfunding is pretty much a boon for the community.
Yeah, Nart, I think you're about to hit like $500,000 raised.
Yeah, it's insane.
So Goose, when you first started Vanguard, had you been playing mobile titles for a long time? I mean, how'd you choose the mobile market as opposed to FGC?
Well, I moved to Mexico when I was in like high school, and I only had a phone. I didn't have any PS4 or anything like that. And all my friends played Clash Royale, so I got into Clash Royale real quick. And that's kind of how I got into gaming. But when Brawl Stars released, that was also another big thing. I played that like, you know, hours and hours a day. And I started a clan with some of my friends just in Brawl Stars. And, you know, then like another clan wanted to join us, so we had like a Discord server. And over the course, it's been about 4 years now since I kind of started with that. It ended up being Vanguard, right? We had a whole bunch of clubs and a whole bunch of clans. And, you know, we started like, hey, what if we turned this into an esports organization and did something real with it, right? Turned it into this now.
Nice. So you'd say it was fairly grassroots and kind of built upon itself.
Yeah. We had no money when we first started. We just host like these like little $10 events and do like just really small things with 5-10 people. So
nice.
Go from there. Yeah.
And Art, would you say you kind of had a similar path? I mean, I know that you were a player, but how did you get started? Where did you transition from player to organizer?
Like I said, I've been playing for like about 25 years. My first competitive tournament was in 1998. So eventually at some point, you're gonna learn like the ins and outs of a tournament, like like running brackets, organizing, to get people to show up, and then like obviously that was pre YouTube, right? So like that was before streaming, right? Like I started streaming in about 2009, 2010. I've been crowdfunding on Matcherino since 2016, and like that was kind of the boost that we needed, right? Because FGC, we were getting tons. The problem was we were getting tons of views, but had no way to monetize, and Matcherino pretty much fulfilled that need. Like we were able to directly monetize like all the viewers of the stream, do many different options. So it's been a boon for us. So the pots pretty much went from like $50 to $100 to sometimes even like $1,000 for a weekly, $5,000 for a monthly, $10,000 for a major. Like the sky's the limit, I feel like.
Nice. So you're saying when you're talking about the viewers and monetizing them, how exactly are you monetizing them? Maybe for other people in the audience, it's worth going through. What are the levers that an organizer can pull?
Oh yeah, so there are a couple of ways to organize. Monetize, which Matcherino is pretty good at, right? Matcherino, first off, they have they have seed money, which is 25-cent donations for you just to visit the page, right? So Matcherino gives a small amount of money for free in codes, up to 50 to 100 codes. That's for visiting the page, right? Once you visit the page, there's multiple ways you can donate to the prize pool. You can buy merchandise, you can buy digital or physical items, and there are these things called sponsor quests, which basically the sponsors they put money into the platform through Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, whatever link they're trying to push at the time, which also boosts the tournament prize pool. They also have an overlay which embeds sponsors into the overlay on stream, right? So it's pretty easy. So as a TO or a streamer, you don't have to think about the sponsor overlay and stuff like that, because Matcherino takes care of all of that for you. And as far as the prize money, Matcherino takes care of that too, because you don't have to think about how to crowdfund once you have it set up. There's a whole chat bot going on that constantly drives engagement to the page for people to click, buy merchandise, click sponsor links, things like that.
Cool. That sounds great. I mean, it sounds like there are a lot of different things. And Goose, in terms of Vanguard Gaming, how does that kind of fit in the Brawl Stars space? How are your events going? What's the Brawl Stars scene look like at this point?
Yeah, we started working with Matcherino in January. I think we held our first event, and I think we've held 7 or 8 of them now. I think it's been about $4,000. Mobile gaming is it's a very different demographic. So a lot of esports is a lot younger, and there's a big community to it, but it's very, very new. It's very much into the last 5 years is when it kind of started, and so you'll find that it's very hard to monetize your community because they don't have a disposable income, and so they kind of don't know where to put money, and there's not a lot of investment to go into it. But there's a lot of viewership, and there's a lot of people that want to reach that demographic, which is probably ages 14 to 22 is probably the average. And so we've held a ton of tournaments, but we've always struggled to find any type of sponsorship or anything along those lines. So Matcherino was definitely a big help for us there with the Supercell partnership. And Supercell is probably one of the best publishers, one of the best publishers when kind of interacting with the community. So they definitely really helped with helping us develop there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Grant has a question, and I'd like to about that too. What's your
my question to Art? You've been in the FGC space for a long time. Has it always grown? And what are some maybe bonus moments for you where you've been wow, this is so much bigger than we might have realized, or the viewership's growing really quickly? And then also, have you ever seen it slow down, and why do you think that is? And maybe some of your insight into more of the recent, is it continuing to just explode, or where is it right now?
Right now, I would say the FGC is probably bigger than it's ever been, and like I said, so the times where it slows down, right? So FGC roots started in arcade, right? arcades stopped being relevant around like 2000 or so. So during from 2000 to say 2009, there was the whole dark period. There was no new games. People were playing the old games, but for the people that were in the scene, it wasn't dark because they still had games to play. They could play them for 10 years, 20 years, or whatever. It's kind of like chess, right? Where the game never dies, right? 2009, Street Fighter 4 comes out, changes everything. That's also when streaming starts taking off. So there's a boost in new players, right? And these guys are called 09ers, right? So there's a whole influx of new players. I think Street Fighter 4, it was the headliner of the FGC. Started getting thousands of entrants at Evolution, which is the largest fighting game tournament, right? Fast forward to today, there's a bunch of when you think of the FGC, you don't want to think of it as one unit. You want to think of it as a sub-unit of niche communities, right? So it's there's about 50 to 100 games in the FGC, right? And because at big tournaments they have all these games, right? So all of these sub-communities combined is what makes the FGC so big, right? Capcom tends to be the headliner of the FGC, followed by Namco, Arc System Works with Guilty Gear. There's pretty much tons of games at this point, and because it has such a rich and storied history, there's legacy players. People I'm 40 years old myself. There's people my age still playing in tournaments that are still getting at the end of tournaments, 40, 50 years old. Good thing about that is, since it's 18 to 35, 18 to 40, I should say, these guys have disposable income. So, there's really so much to talk about.
Nice. Sweet, thank you.
Goose, are you seeing kind of the similar thing? So, Art is describing this massive growth in the FGC, and we actually came back from EVO, and, now it's being held at these massive arenas. I've shown friends, parents, whatever, videos of that, and it's they still don't believe it to this day. Are you still seeing that? Are you seeing that same kind of thing in Brawl Stars where you can fill out stadiums and that demographic of 14 to 20? Oh yeah.
But we had there was definitely a difficult year or two with COVID because those LAN events started getting canceled, right? They couldn't hold them, so that definitely slowed down a little bit of mobile. But the second that restrictions started getting lifted, it started taking off. People love getting into that stuff and connecting with people through mobile. So definitely.
Are those being held worldwide? Go.
No, I was saying on the note of COVID, so during the COVID period, right, there were no offline tournaments in the FGC, nothing. Matcherino was pretty much a boon because basically what happened is everything went online. We're all using Matcherino anyway, so it's not like nothing ever happened, but the ecosystem stayed solvent, right? Obviously there was a sponsor decrease due to there being less offline events. Everything went online, and Matcherino pretty much held down.
Yep.
Great. How did things operate before, Art? Back in the days, I was 8 years old in '98. That was your first tournament. How were people monetizing back then?
Cash money. It was just straight cash money, right?
Delayed.
So our entry fees, right?
Oh, sorry. Say that again, Grant.
You mean entry fees?
Yeah, entry fees. People playing money matches. It was real underground.
Were you seeing sponsorships at the time?
Fight Club.
Were you getting sponsors or in sponsorships at the time? Now we have Sony buying stuff.
Capcom didn't even start paying attention to us until 2008. The first sponsorships in the FGC was Toyota Yaris. So Mario Kart DS, that was 2006. That was during the dark days. Basically there was no monetization at all. People made money by selling VHS tapes of the tournament footage.
That's great.
Wow. if you weren't in the know, you couldn't get the footage.
Huh.
This is for both of you guys, but what have been some of the biggest advertisers that have come in and done something that has resonated the best with the community? What did that look like, and when was that?
There's definitely a lot of tech sponsorship that comes through esports because tech just loves esports. It's a young demographic. I definitely see a lot of sponsorships coming from Samsung. I know it's a lot of things. I know one of the major teams in mobile. They sent a what's the new watch they have or something like that. Samsung Watch. They sent one to every single person, and they all posted it online, and it was like the hugest thing for an entire week because they had sent like 50 people, and so they got some massive exposure, right? Other stuff outside of that, yeah. You'll see like Web3 is definitely a big thing coming in. We just had a partnership with Artera Labs where we launched a collectible with them that lets us do a lot of cool stuff there. I know Supercell does like a lot of stuff with like doing skins in game. So they'll like launch some people, like I know Line Friends is one that they did like some merchandise, and they also launched skins in game, and that's a whole lot of sales that they get to there.
Sweet.
Makes sense. Yeah, actually, this I would be really curious to hear both of your guys' opinions, because I feel like a lot of sponsors sometimes they look at the game and they think my product needs to be directly related to that. So a good example is Samsung phones and the mobile market, where you might have arcade sticks and fighting games. Do you think that it has to be that linear, or do you think that there's cross-pollination between communities? So someone plays All Stars, are they playing Street Fighter as well?
I definitely think you can cross-pollinate in between communities. It's like even if the product you're marketing isn't relevant to the FGC or games, you have to keep in mind that because of the advantage of there being so many sub communities, what that means like for a stream is that product placement is literally like 12 hours a day for like 3 days, right? These fans are engaged. They're watching like 8, 9 streams like at a major trip, right? They're just sitting there like buying products and obviously if you want to talk about which companies have made the biggest boon in the FGC, so one of the problems with the FGC until recently is that the games are mostly locked to a console, right? So what that means is you couldn't get any of that sweet PC money, right? Now I'm making a move into a PC, so that's opening up like a whole new ballpark, right? So now this is like another reason why the FGC is just straight up growing, because now PC sponsors are getting involved, and obviously with that there's a snowball effect. There's literally so much I could talk about. I'm trying to fit it in like a minute,
Yeah. No.
I personally like to divide the communities by consoles, or not consoles, but like the platforms that they use. So like mobile, PC, console. And the reason is because everybody who's got like a PS4, there's a lot of games on a PS4 that they are going to have access to. And everybody has a mobile phone, but not everybody who has a mobile phone has a console. And so you'll see, and the reason we like to stick to mobile gaming is because, well, if someone plays Brawl Stars, there's probably a 50-50 chance they play Clash Royale or one of the other Supercell games. And that also, applies to Call of Duty Mobile. It also applies to League of Legends Wild Rift. And then another thing you'll see is that a lot of PC games are starting to pick up. Well, mobile gaming has the majority share of the mobile games market. They have, I think, it's 51% last year of the mobile games market, meaning that there's just a ton of money being made through mobile. And although mobile esports hasn't really caught up yet, they're noticing, well, if we get in now, there's going to be some massive growth in that space. And so they have Call of Duty, right, which is a PC game, and they're going to create Call of Duty Mobile, which was a pretty big release a couple of years ago. And so there's that cross-pollination. It's like, well, okay, they're putting the communities together, right? And then they have, that's happening all over right now in mobile. Yeah. Like they have Wild Rift came out this year, they have Valorant coming out, they have Overwatch coming out next year on mobile. So there's definitely a lot of cross-pollination.
That's a great point. I mean, if you think about even, a game like Fortnite, probably one of the biggest games in the world, it kicks off in PC and console, and then suddenly it's mobile. And then they're successfully basically breaking the walls between all the platforms. That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was funny that you say Fortnite, because Fortnite did so well. They made so much money through in-game purchases that Apple actually banned them because they weren't sharing the profits because of the way the in-game purchases were made. It was insane.
Yeah, so. yeah, that lawsuit.
Are they still banned from the Apple Store?
I don't think they're on there, if I'm not mistaken. I think they're off, like, entirely. Yeah. And they're like, no, we're not. They were like, we're not switching, and they're like, well, we're not going to let you back on. So it's crazy.
I have a question for both of you guys too. Sorry, it's a question for both of you guys. But when it comes to viewership, like, what are ways that you guys, the levers that you pull to just be like, I guess maybe one way to maybe talk about it is if you had a big budget right now and you were like, we're gonna just blow up the viewership, what are the things that go into that in terms of like bigger prize pool or promoting it or getting the players or?
Yeah. So every scene has celebrities, meaning that there's big pro players or big teams, depending what scene, if single or if it's creators who have a lot of followers. And you need to attract them to your events, right? So you need to get a big prize pool potentially to make it worth their time, or you need to pull in some unique structuring, meaning and maybe it's set up differently than other scenes. So maybe it's like connected to a charity, or it's something fresh, like it's a new game mode, something along those lines. But you need to pull in the biggest people to get the biggest viewership. And then following that, I'd say you need to be consistent. So you don't just grow overnight, right? So you need to host events over and over and over again, and that's how you get a following, and that's how you get really big events.
I know Art knows about doing events so over and over and over again. Every time I talk to Art, he's like running a new tournament.
Oh yeah. So I'm pretty much like the king of like making something happen out of nothing, right? Like literally, like since I'm used to like zero budget in the FCC, like we pretty much gotta get. But thankfully, like I've seen for like about 10 years or so, I like a pretty decent following and like the hundreds of thousands across Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter, right? So I use my social media platform alone just to blow up an event. Obviously, the players are important, right? So I have to make sure to get really good players, right? But FGC, it's not just like about the big events. Like with Matcherino specifically, I've had a lot of success with the small events, aka like. We're in like a trading card store, right? Like no budget. Like we're just sitting there like in the back of a room, and like we're blowing up pots like into the house.
What is some of the viewership been like, and maybe like what's been surprising that caught you off?
So it's about like so for some of our weeklies it's like about like anywhere from like 3,000 to like 10,000 concurrent, and like the 10,000 would be like if a new game comes out, obviously the first week hype like on streaming stuff like that. Right, the pots tend to be anywhere from like 500 to like 2,000 for weeklies. One of the best examples of me doing a grassroots and really blowing it up with no budget at all would be probably Battle of the Strongest Three, and that was a tournament for Marvel vs. Capcom 2, where we did it in a friend's basement, and we raised $10,000 with 8 players, but we invited like the 8 best players in the world. And like it was literally like authentic as hell. We had like about 10 to 15,000 viewers. We used multiple channels to restream, and like the pot just blew up like crazy. People were really feeling
it. Yeah. I would say for my viewership, let's see, raise your hand.
Okay, well, raise your hand.
Go on.
I just wanted to jump in really quick, coming from not really the esports world at all, but definitely in marketing and digital advertising. And I think one of the things that's been difficult is kind of translating the Matcherino, ad tools and platform to more traditional marketers that might come from, be big players like the Coca-Colas of the world, but not really fully understand kind of that esports ecosystem. And I think one of the coolest things that Matcherino offers is kind of this sponsor quest, and that you really have your community engaging. This isn't just like a classic impression where, someone might not even look at it or be scrolling through. Having consumers or users actively participate in an advertising campaign is something I think that's super unique, but really difficult almost for traditional marketers to kind of grasp if they're not understanding like what an overlay is and how that's different from Twitch and how it's in, how much more seamless that is. I wonder if you guys could kind of describe how you first kind of approach sponsor quests, how your users reacted to it, and kind of how it works from, the nuts and bolts of you guys kind of being the ones behind it and orchestrating it. Like, how does that work, and how did you really promote that to your users and kind of describe kind of sponsor quests in general?
Oh yeah, so sponsor quests so pretty much sponsor quests are like really good like for long tournaments, right? So the way it works is like this: the sponsor like invests like into the ecosystem, right? It can be like clicks. It can be clicks like a website, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch. They set the balance. Matcherino takes like a small cut, right? So like let's say for example like you're trying to blow up Coca-Cola's Twitter, right? Or like they have like some type of new product, right? then then let's say for like 20 cents, 30 cents, 50 cents or whatever, or $1 or whatever, if you click this link and visit this page, Matcherino will donate $1 to the prize pool courtesy of like Coke or whatever, right? So like if you're wondering how to sell that like to the stream, remember that these tournaments are like long tournaments. Like even weekly tournaments, like the small tournaments, those go for like 6-7 hours, right? Now we already mentioned the Matcherino ecosystem of like free and like paid products on the site. So obviously, since these are long form tournaments, right, and viewers come in and out of the stream, eventually like the people are watching, they're going to be tapped out of grassroots money, right? But then that's when you get them. Like, as soon as you feel like the stream is tapped out, and let's say experience, from streaming and crowdfunding and trying to blow up the pot, once you feel that the stream watching is tapped out, you sit there and literally get them to click the sponsor quest. And then literally you have like 10, 15, 20,000 people just click because it's free money. And then the sponsors get like all this extra engagement, and it's all natural too.
That's awesome. Yeah, so it actually adds like a bit of this gamification on on top of it, which, no pun intended, is in the right community.
Yeah, exactly. Because like you guys advertise, but you get where I'm coming from.
Well, when Art says tapped out too, just for my like quick perspective, when we first launched Matcherino, it was just donate to the prize pool. And we were blown away by how much people donated. But just like with any kind of donation drive, it hits a wall where it's like, okay, we did it, we did what we could as a community. So what Art's saying is like, he goes until they're kind of like, people are done donating, and then it's like, hey, let's donate with, the advertiser tools or the sponsor tools that Matcherino is providing.
I feel like that actually interesting because it highlights the brand, so the brand's not in the background, and it's like melded in with grassroots and trying to get the the core of the community. It's almost like the saving grace at the end that comes in and kind of is able to like bolster that pot. So that's cool. Awesome. Thanks for describing that.
Yeah, with our partnership with Supercell that they did with Matcherino, they actually created some in-game cosmetics, like a pin, which is something that you can use in-game. And what they did was they said, if you donate $5 to this prize pool, then you'll get an in-game pin. And then also Supercell will match to the $5. And so we held our first event, and our prize pool actually almost tripled in size because everybody wanted to get this pin in-game. They're like, well, it's the only way to get it, so I'm going to give money to get it because they're collecting the items and stuff like that. So.
What is an in-game pin is?
Yeah, they usually call it an emote. If do you know what an emote is? Like where you can press it while you're playing the game, and like it'll show off your little cosmetic. But they call it pins in Brawl. It's the same thing as an emote.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It's almost like a custom emoji in the game.
Yeah,
it's a custom emoji basically. It's the with the Matcherino helmet. Actually,
so
are you seeing real quick, just to add to that, are you seeing that happen in other activations with Brawl Stars? I mean, does Samsung have kind of a Samsung skin in there, or?
Yeah, they just released like a week or two ago. They did a lot of organizations, and unfortunately, we just barely didn't make the cut. But a lot of organizations that were in Worlds last year, which we weren't, they got a pin, and everybody who buys it, 50% goes to the organizations, which is pretty awesome. And so they all have like their names on there. And they've done like a lot of stuff. Like they've worked with the Latin American Soccer League. I forgot what the exact name is, but all the teams, like Club America is my favorite team, and they have like Chivas and teams like that. They all got a skin in game. So like stuff like that's really what gets Supercell going. Those are because people are collecting those items. Right, and they want to have them all. So
you're seeing soccer teams get involved in mobile esports.
Yep, exactly.
Wow. Okay,
exactly.
Cool.
Is a pin something that Matcherino could facilitate, or is that something that happens or is created completely separately?
That's created, at least my understanding, by Supercell, as in but because of the way Matcherino like targets it, is they're able to create those activations. They're able to convince people to get it, right? It's for a good cause, I guess you could say.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
you
just
worked with Supercell to like do it.
So for
Yep.
lack of like some severe, non-industry knowledge, would it be similar to like you be creating a filter or whatever in an app, and so the brand has to kind of do that, but in order to promote it, you've got to like you can pull levers so that you can help promote kind of everyone getting the Samsung pen, for instance.
It's a good analogy, but no one can just create the filter, like, because it's in the game. It would be like
Yeah.
adding an emoji to the iOS system.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
That's like good to understand. Cool.
I guess, and I don't, you don't need to name names, but I'd be curious because, I've seen this in other, or in some communities that I'm a part of, but like where an advertiser comes in with a big budget, but they just don't do things in a way that harnessed it effectively. Have you guys seen that happen before? And maybe
Oh yeah.
why?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, if you could give
A
some
lot of
insight.
times, and I remember we talked about this before, but a lot of times you'll see that somebody's like, oh, well, I love to play Rocket League, or I love to play X thing, and then they'll go and they'll just do the hugest thing that they can find, and they'll spend like $1 million trying to get this going, when I think if they would take the time and they'd look at some smaller things or some things that are more grassroots, you can get so much more bang for your buck. Just focusing on, okay, well, what are these communities that are grinding it out, doing it for like a cheaper price, as opposed to just going to the top dog, the top guy that's in there.
Yeah. Like I definitely agree with that. And like I feel like Rocket League and the FGC kind of have like very similar parallels on that front, where it's like it's not about like crazy big spend, and like that's kind of like the Matcherino philosophy in the first place. So the Matcherino philosophy kind of is one tournament alone is not worth. Like, it's not really worth anything. Small tournaments, I'm saying. Obviously, you have like your super majors and stuff like that. But if you combine the scale of like thousands of small tournaments, now we're talking, because you're harnessing grassroots.
Yep, and that's why in Brawl Stars it's similar. Like the leagues are the ones that get the highest viewership, because every week all of the pro community is tuning in to this one event because they want to know who's going to take the lead for that week. And at the end there's the whole big tournament, which also gets huge views, but they'll have probably 15 events over the course of a couple months because it's a league, and that's where the huge viewership comes in, because of that consistency.
Yeah, I was actually, that's part of the reasoning behind the overlay, actually, is because we kind of figured that conversion rates are typically higher on more, smaller communities, but with more loyal fan bases. So, people who love Vanguard, there might be 10,000 of them, 20,000 of them, but they all really love Vanguard. Or you might have, Sabin, and Sabin's had all his fans. And so, maybe he's not pulling in millions and millions and millions of views per event. But, you end up seeing a better...
Yep. Just to give a couple examples of why they'd be more committed. In a big community, you have a Twitch chat with someone who's watching 20,000 people. They're probably not reading all of the text, because there's just so much people coming in, and they're probably not saying, hey, welcome to the chat when they join. But if you have a smaller community and it's like, you have a couple hundred people in there, or maybe 1,000 even, every time someone comes in, it's like, hey, how's it going? And they'll have a conversation with their fans.
Right.
And the same thing on Discord is, you'll talk to your fans when you're not even streaming. And so you definitely build those loyal fans. And every creator who's big had that at one point, but now they're so big that it's washed out, right? You kind of missed your mark.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. No,
like
sure.
I've pulled thousands of dollars with like 50 to 100 viewers. Seriously, happens.
Yeah.
So even though obviously you want to scale this up, don't sleep on the small communities. It's the scale of those small communities that really adds up and makes Matcherino, the platform, amazing.
No, that's good to hear.
Couldn't agree more.
Funny.
I guess one of my follow-up questions is, and this is, it's probably hard to answer, but when I talk to people about esports, it's a little funny too, because this doesn't really happen so much these days, but before I'd have some people ask, like, is this a fad? And kind of my response to that is, well, sports is just becoming digital, so it's not like this is some crazy new thing. It's really just, people like games in general, and games again are becoming digital. How long do you guys think it's going to take, / will it get there? or is it going to look differently? Where you're going to go into a bar and maybe watch it on TV, or basically like when is it going to get as big as traditional sports? Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I think it'll be when the demographic starts to match, if that makes sense. I mean, it's one way to look at it. And so, like when the older community gets into it, what's better?
Yeah. I mean, if you ask me, like, I feel like the demographic is already here already. It's like,
definitely.
Like I said, like I'm 40, right? So, like, I'm like the old guy, right? Everybody younger than me is already born into games. From my generation, like, I had to tell my parents, like gaming is a waste of time. Like, they always tell me gaming is a waste of time, right? So, like, the generational gap has now shifted. So now, like, my generation's having kids. So I feel like it's here. You just have to, I mean, like, I would say it's already as big as traditional sports, with the caveat being you have to understand that these are sub-communities for each different game. You combine the sub-communities of all the genres, and it's bigger than sports. You just have to pick your slice pretty much. And, like, that's where the advertising comes in, because you can obviously have really effective targeted marketing.
So you think in like 10 years it might be on at the local bar?
Yeah, I would say it. And I mean, I've been to, like, I went to City Barbecue one time, and they had the Overwatch League streaming on there. I'm like, whoa, Dad, look at this. And he's like, what is that? Oh, that's a video game. I had to explain it to him. But I definitely think in the next decade we'll see a shift like that. Yeah. And it's already happening, so.
Cool. And then, I guess maybe even speaking of Overwatch League, for those that aren't, like, super familiar with it, Activision, which owns Overwatch, or Blizzard, came in and they, like, immediately after the game was launched, put their own league in place, which did some really positive things for the game in terms of getting out there, but it also kind of crushed the grassroots scene, because you were kind of either a player in this league or you weren't, so kind of the haves and the have-nots, and the floor kind of fell out from underneath all the organizers that were trying to put content together. How do you guys view the relationship between, I guess, what's a healthy ecosystem? How does the the publisher interact with their organizers? And I guess, any thoughts on that?
I would say that it's not necessarily that either or is the correct answer, but it depends. Like, if like the Overwatch League kind of started to fall apart after a couple of years, and the reason is because there was many things, like the meta of the game wasn't entertaining to watch. At least they felt like the characters weren't so good, so they're like, okay, we don't want to watch, and the logistics were difficult. But I would say if they would have fixed those issues that didn't have to do with them being in control, I think it would have gone really, really well, as opposed to how it did. I think it's probably a lot easier just to leave it as a free market and not control it, and just leave it open to guys like us who will come in and we'll figure it out, right? Because this is what we do for a living, and so I guess that's what I'd suggest, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's like it's not either or, like because from what I've seen across numerous titles, if a platform or developer tries to just monopolize the scene, right? What basically happens is when that developer money or esports money runs out, the game dies, right?
Yep.
So like
exactly.
So like that's not necessarily a good strategy, right? So you don't want to kill the community, but like obviously you want that esports money to be there, right? So it's not either or, like you said. You have to like give and take. Like obviously, like there's a place for grassroots, right? Because like that's where the core fan base is, right? And there's a time for like esports, big events.
Yeah, and I think Supercell, the company we work with, I think they do a really good job at it. They have their World Championship, which is every month they have like the competing tournaments, and there's the qualifiers to get into it, and then at the end it's like the people at the top, they all play out, and there's a big LAN event. But they also that's not the only thing, right? They don't have like a control of the market, so they also put money into the Matcherino partnership that they have that we've already talked about. They put money into Queso Cup, which is an organization like us. They put money into ESL. ESL does a lot of things in Brawl Stars, and they're facilitating the community there instead of controlling it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, and then also one of the nice things about Matcherino too, like just to touch up on that, it actually makes it easier for like some of the big developers or platforms or sponsors to basically get through all the red tape, right? So obviously, like when you do an esports event and you're dealing with sponsors, there's tons of moving parts, right? Tons and tons of moving parts. You have to go through multiple lawyers, this, that, and the third, right? I mean, at the end of the day, like I understand why it's done, but for the end user, aka the people being at a tournament, like it's basically really annoying, right? Because people don't know like when the red tape's gonna end, why, and like Matcherino pretty much cuts through all that, right? Like so everything that we said about the platform, like it really caps out with pretty much immediate payment, right? The players get paid immediately to have their info, and like that's like a huge boon for everybody. It's like you don't have to sign no W-9. Matcherino handles the tax forms. Like it makes things easier.
Nice. Hey guys, we're gonna maybe allow one or two more questions if there are any, and then would love to hear what you guys are soon up to. But first and foremost, are there any other questions before we get to that?
I guess I was just gonna maybe touch on something Art said too. When it comes to like the red tape, I think Art, you're talking about like if a big advertiser comes in and they want to spend a bunch of money, maybe putting on their own first party event. A lot of times publishers will have kind of community licensor agreements where typically what we've seen the threshold be if there's an event with like a $10,000 or more prize pool, then the publisher wants to basically hand approve the event. Who's sponsoring it? A lot of other questions along those. They basically need to give it their blessing. So by able to reach a bunch of grassroots, you can actually spend a big budget and not necessarily trigger those issues. Matcherino also, we put on our own tournaments if advertisers want to, and I will say that we've always gotten approval. But that's what starts talking about. Like the publishers basically want to be a part of the equation when the events get big enough.
And that's not every scene. Some scenes they have a policy that's just like you can do it as long as XYZ, and then other ones are like you can't do it ever. But it definitely depends on the scene. Yeah, most of them in the middle.
Cool. You guys, thanks for actually jumping into this. This has been super informative, and even from my perspective, because I work with both of you every single day, and this has been really educational. So tonight we're actually going to have another pretty big event showcasing the sponsor overlay. That's worth noting. That's going to be with Sabin himself, Art, who's in the call. But what else do you guys have going on that's coming up? I mean, tell me, what are these events? Where can the sponsors find them? Where can they find your content?
Oh, so I'm not doing the event tonight because I'm on the call. but yeah, generally. So if you want to follow me, I'm at NycFurby on Twitter. I'm at FGC Sabin on YouTube, and I'm on Twitch at NycFurby, right? And just looking through my VODs at FGC Sabin, you can pretty much see like throughout. So like here's another thing that's dope about the whole Matcherino ecosystem, right? Because of the VODs, like advertisers can pretty much double dip, right? So do the YouTube VODs because the YouTube VODs will get shown, and those are forever. Those are basically forever. I think I have like about 10,000 videos I've been streaming for like about 10 years or so on YouTube, right? And like if you just go through like the last like 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you can see the Matcherino ecosystem at work, whether it's small events or big events.
Yeah, no, thank you, Art. That's a good point. We definitely try to clarify that not only with our technology are you embedded into the live stream, but it's going to persist on forever in the replays. So thank you for helping pitch that.
Yeah, people, sponsors actually don't realize that sometimes. Yeah, you have to tell them.
Here's what you got cooking.
Yeah, I think that's huge, honestly, for advertisers. The understanding that video will be watched over and over and over again and lives in perpetuity, and that does. And I wonder if there's any way. I know each obviously different tournament will have different viewership, but it'd be interesting to try and track like low, like a small grassroots, medium, large, and just kind of say like 30-day look back, 60-day look back, 90-day look back, just how many more views they can on average, because they'll that when you look at like YouTube if you're looking against like other video streaming platforms, while not esports, but big competitors I would assume of yours would be those that are running on YouTube platform. And that's something that once your ad runs, like once you've got your certain amount of bot impressions, you're done. Like that ad will never run again. So I think that that's actually a huge selling point. That
I agree with that. Like, I mean, to touch up on that, I've had tournaments, right, where I've had, like I said, I have had 100 viewers. No one's watching on Twitch, but then the VOD blows up to like 1 million views.
That's wild. Like that would be something
wild, right? Yeah, wow.
Advertiser like would never think about or take into consideration. And I think that's one of the things that from an outside perspective and just understanding the advertiser model, that a lot of, these traditional companies that have, so many different cooks in the kitchen where you have to translate how well, a campaign or partnership, like how successful a partnership was. You really have to kind of put it into, they want to know how many impressions, how many click-throughs and some of these classic models. And it's harder to encapsulate the real, the real impact of having somebody go into their own social channel, post something, click on something, look at something. One thing I've mentioned in the past is that a view for YouTube and on Facebook is 3 seconds long, and that's considered a view, where I'm sure you guys have, what you're saying, some of your smaller tournaments even go to like 6-7 hours, or, that's a lot of viewership. You have an overlay that's exposed that whole time, 3 seconds versus 6 hours is a massive difference. And then so there's so much there that I think if you can highlight those key differentiating factors for, the bigger advertisers like Coca-Cola's of the world, that will help them really understand the key like competitive differences that the platform that Matcherino was offering.
Yeah. Like I think you coined it up perfectly. It's like basically like the old analytics, like the Nielsen's of the world, like they pretty much don't work because there's so many different platforms and there's so many different ways you can slice it, right? That like when the advertiser is not aware of that, like of it being an internet era, and like you can slice it like a billion different ways.
And I just have a hard time even trying to think of another case outside, blowing open it entirely and saying esports, but what other industry or, tech or any platform would allow that much engagement, like with the consumers. And I think it's really by nature of the fact that everyone kind of assume or has the notion that e-gamers are a very strong community. There's tons of loyalty. People are super invested, and that's kind of harder to find, across other communities.
Super invested. Yeah, I mean, you're totally right on that because it's definitely hard to track metrics using the old ways. But again, with the tournaments, super engaged, and we're only talking about two communities in esports. There's a whole nother ball game that we haven't even touched. We're talking about fighting games and Overwatch Super stuff. But there's so many other things.
Absolutely.
There are a lot. There's dozens of them, and we see them too. It's kind of funny too. We see recently on our platform, Tetris has been getting pretty big. So, I don't, it's kind of smaller communities you wouldn't expect aren't just doing okay. They're thriving.
They're thriving. And just because a game is old doesn't mean it's out of vogue or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, think of it like checkers. Some of these games are like checkers with chess, timeless.
Yeah, totally.
Well, I definitely love.
I think of Teamfight Tactics too. That came out 15 years ago, was it? I think when I was born, maybe. And it's still. I mean, people are still playing it daily. It's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're out of time here. Goose, when's your next event? And then we got to close the call. I love the discussion.
We hold them every Saturday at 3. We hold our Brawl Van event, so you can catch it then.
Nice. All right, great.
Yep, I do events basically every other day. It's I'm so burned out from doing so many events. It's literally my channel is active 5 days a week, right? And it's from small events to big events. There's literally so much. Yeah. And I'm only just one channel.
Wow. Well, you are a machine. All right. Well, guys, thanks so much for joining. This has been the first call. Hopefully, many more to come. But starting with both of you for Brawl Stars and the FGC, couldn't think of better people. So thanks again.
Yeah, thank you guys. So this is our, like Michael said, our first call. Our next one should be on October 14th. We're gonna move these to actually Fridays at 3. But I want to thank everyone here that joined. Hopefully everyone that watches too. We're gonna put this to a private playlist for everyone in our Advertiser newsletter, and yeah, we're very excited to kind of show our new technology. But I think, hearing it from the horse's mouth, understanding organizers and their communities, there's a lot to dig into. Like, I think we're definitely oversimplifying things, but the real winners, and when it comes to advertising in this space, are the ones that dig in, understand it, know how to actually reach these audiences. There's a lot of untapped audiences. So anyway, we're very excited to help tap them. But yeah, thanks everyone again. Looking forward to the next one, and yeah, hopefully people can check out Goose and Art. Their tournaments are very well received, have a lot of viewers, and it would definitely be educational to tune in and see how their tournaments look like. So thanks again, and yeah, looking forward to the next one.
Absolutely. Thanks
Thanks,
everybody.
guys.
Thanks
Hey, guys.
everybody. Have a good one. All right, bye.